So let's begin our lecture with the land acknowledgement. As you all know, a land acknowledgement is identifying and paying respect to the traditional inhabitants of the land that we now occupy and work and live on. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe nations. The territory is the subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy and the Ojibwe and allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We must recognize, like the peoples of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe nations, that the Dish represents a common area of land, and the spoon means that we all have to share this land equally. We are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of Indigenous peoples who have taken care of this land and recognize and deeply appreciate their historic and contemporary connection to this place. While the acknowledgement of this, it can be a good start, we encourage all of you to continue to learn about the land that you're on and take action to decolonize. Especially, we want you to learn more about the Dish with One Spoon Treaty, and you can visit that website, the native-land.ca website, to learn more about this agreement. So we're really honored today to have Dr. Alpha Abebe, who is an assistant professor in the Faculty of Humanities at McMaster University. Her teaching focuses on exploring how to make different aspects of society fair and equitable for everyone. She's interested in understanding the experiences of people from Africa and Black communities because these are the communities she has grown up in. Dr. Abebe also has a passion and interest in working on issues that impact young people and creating opportunities that allow children and youth to take on leadership roles in their communities. So with that, I would like to invite Dr. Abebe to share her lecture entitled, Can Everyone Be a Leader? Dr. Abebe?
Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind introduction and for this invitation to be here today. I wish we could be in a room together and interacting in that way. I'm sure that energy would be really fun, but I'm going to try my best to keep this as interactive as possible and hopefully still get a chance to get to know some of you. So yes, today I will be talking about leadership, and the question I sort of posed as a title for this conversation is, can everyone be a leader? There's something about the definition of a leader that suggests that it's a special person, right? It's a particular person in a group who is identified as a leader. So asking this question, can everyone, if everyone's a leader, then does that mean that nobody is a leader? Like that, I think, hopefully that question is getting you thinking in a couple of different directions. And so I'm looking forward to having a conversation. And I'm not here to, have a set of facts that I'm going to be teaching to you. I'm here to share some of the things that I've learned along the way, but also to hear from you and create, what I hope is a shared learning experience. And I imagine I'll be learning from you as well. So thanks for taking some precious time out of your weekend to hear me speak. I'm looking forward to this discussion. I don't have a lot of rules today. This is the one rule I'm gonna ask you to abide by, which is please don't punish me by making me talk to myself and to the screen. The goal is for this not to be me up here in the corner of your screen talking at you. I hear my voice all day, and honestly, I'm kind of bored of my own voice. So what I'm actually hoping is that our time today is a dialogue. We're having conversations with each other, sharing ideas. And so you don't have to wait to the end to ask questions. I'll be posing questions and opportunities to get your perspective throughout, the lecture. So please, even if you're not somebody who normally would, participate or share ideas, I hope you know that this is a space that is very much open to all perspectives and ideas. And so I want to hear from you. And so please feel free, use the hand raising function, share your thoughts in the chat, however you're comfortable doing that. And if I'm really lucky, maybe a few of you will even be able to turn your videos on. So, oh, there are a few. There we go. Cool. Always great to see a few faces. All right. So I'm going to start by telling you a bit about me and then also maybe hear a bit about you. So these are a few different images that I've sort of put together in this collage, mostly to remind me of some things about me that I should share, but also maybe to give you a bit of a visual sense as well. So as the introduction states, I'm an assistant professor at McMaster in the Faculty of Humanities. I teach across a lot of different programs, actually. So I actually do teach a range of courses that are focused on leadership, different aspects of leadership. So that's been really cool. But I also teach in the Global Peace and Social Justice program. I teach students in the business, department. I also teach students from across the university who take my courses as part of their broader program. So that's been really cool to get an opportunity to just engage with various students from across the university. So these are a few different icons. So the image there with my avatar holding a cup of coffee, that's the avatar I use in all my Zoom meetings. It makes it a lot more fun. But one thing I wanted to point your attention to was what's in my hand, which is a cup of coffee. Surprisingly, I don't have one here, but normally I do have at least a cup of coffee next to me. And that's just, I just love coffee. And I think it's important that anybody who knows me knows that I love coffee. I don't have anything more interesting to say than that. At the bottom right, you see me with a camera in hand. And as I shared in the bio, I love art more generally speaking. I just love art. I love just experiencing art, engaging in art as much as I can. And the tool of choice for me, the form of art that I've really loved to practice is photography. It's been a really interesting way for me to just have a creative outlet, but also a different kind of, quite literally a different lens on the world. It's helped me explore the world, explore my own, communities and communities of other people, small objects on the ground, like in a different way. So that's been really cool. As it's stated in the bio, this here is an icon I just used to represent this idea of equality and equity, which is something else that's really important to me, just from my own experience, my own lived experience, and just engaging with different people in various communities. I think it's really important, and I'm sure many of you do as well, that no matter where you come from, what background, what community, gender, nationality, that everyone has an equal say, everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed, to be creative, to thrive, and particularly young people. That's something I'm really passionate about. So for me, I had some really important experiences as a young person, beginning from ages right around where you are, leading into my teens and into my young adulthood, that really helped shape my understanding of who I was and what I could do. And so that really fueled my passion for just creating more opportunities where people more generally, but young people in particular, know that they matter and that they have the skills and ability to make change in their lives and in the world around them. So that's something that I'm passionate about. And I spend a lot of time just working on and advocating for and researching within the university, but also outside in the community. This globe icon here is, in case you're interested, some of my other research interests has to do with migration, and just understanding how, maybe some of you were born in Canada, but your parents came from a different country, for example, right? So there's, for anyone who has that kind of experience, you might understand that your life is shaped by not only the Canadian experience, but also things, events, and cultural practices, foods, and ideas from other places in the world. And so that's something that I've always been really interested in. Me, myself, I was born in Canada, in Toronto in particular. That's where I'm also sitting right now, born and raised in Toronto. But both my parents came from Ethiopia, which is a country in the eastern part of Africa. And so I lived this life that was shaped both by Canada and Ethiopia. And I find that really interesting. And that's something that I've been doing research on in sort of the academic part of my life. I'm also a mom of two. So these little munchkins or rascals, depending on the day, are my kids. My daughter is 5. My son is almost 3. they're downstairs with their dad, and hopefully if he doesn't get too distracted, he can keep them downstairs. Otherwise, you might see one of them bust through the door, and we'll just figure out how to move forward from that. But yeah, being a mom's also super hard and also super fun, and a big part of what makes my life kind of interesting and spicy. And then here, I looked for a picture of myself. I was like, I got to find a picture where I look super awkward and young. And I put it there just as a reminder that, sometimes when you come to talks like this, and people talk about, all the things that they know and all the accomplishments that they have and the places they've been, it's easy to think that they're these sort of people that are way out there and the things that they do are kind of so far from what you could do, right? But I just want to remind you as we begin this conversation that this is me here in the corner, this awkward, confused child navigating the world, figuring it out. For some reason, I thought the pearls would, complete this outfit. I didn't know a lot. I was figuring it out just like many of you are, right? And I'm still figuring it out. And so, if you take away one thing from our conversation today, I hope it's that that we're all here on a level playing field. And by that, I mean, there's nothing about what makes you you that disqualifies you from really having an impact in this world and in your community. And that's kind of what I want to impart as that's a spoiler as a sort of core message from our conversation today. So if we had a whole lot of time, I would have loved to kind of go around and everyone tell me all the, as many interesting things about you as possible. But I think that might take too much time. So I thought I'd ask two questions. And if you can share your answers for the first question in the chat. I just think it'd be really helpful for me to know how old you all are. And that can kind of just give me a sense of like who the audience is today. So can you just tell me in the chat how old you are? Right, 12, 8, 11, 9, 11, 13, 14, 9. We are all 11. Hello, all 11-year-olds and 7. Okay, cool. 13, 12, 14. Okay, so all over the map. Cool. That's amazing. Those are all very good ages. 10. All right. I remember when I turned 10. I was so jazzed about finally being in the double digits. It was a very exciting time. Okay, cool. Some more ages rolling through. You feel so old. Jimmy feels old. Well, I won't tell you how old I am then, because you might kick me out. All right. Oh, you felt so old. Oh, I see. Okay, when you turn 10, yes, exactly, right? Like, I've finally arrived. I'm in the double digits. Woo! Okay. All right. So the second question I have for you is, these have been some challenging few years, right? Like this whole pandemic nonsense that we find ourselves in. There's been just a lot of stress, a lot of change, a lot of uncertainty. Maybe some of you, like there was some loss in your family. There's been a lot, I think, and a lot to be stressed about and sad about. But I hope that there's also been some things that have brought you joy and have helped you feel kind of grounded. So I thought it'd be really nice to hear some things from you about what has been a source of joy for you, or what is a source of joy for you? What brings you joy these days? So pop it in the chat or feel free to raise your hand and share out loud. Minecraft, Netflix, playing with friends. All very cool. Games and mom. I like games and my mom too. Any other things that have been a source of joy? Your cat Trixie and Pookie. Are those two cats or the same cat with two names?
Sorry, they're two cats.
Two cats.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, hello, cats. Friends are awesome, though they try to kill me. Oh, well, you need some new friends. All right. What's the question? The question is, what is something that's been a source of joy for you? What's something that's been making you happy? Just keeping you going these days. Nintendo, family, TV, especially my sister. Nice. Anything else? Family, friends, iPad, Roblox, Minecraft. All right, I see some themes here. So definitely the technology is keeping people engaged and happy and going, family and friends as well. That's not true. All right, we're starting. There's a fight happening. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I hope you continue to, chase and hold on to those things that bring you joy. That's really important in this journey that we're all on together called life. All right. McMods for life. What's that? MC mods or McMods? Is that a game? It's Minecraft. Sorry, I'm not Minecraft literate, but thank you for that. Okay, books. Me neither. Okay. My kids are getting older, so I got to hurry up and figure out all the cool things. You guys are helping me. This is like research for me. Now I'm learning all the things I need to know to be cool, a cool mom. All right, cool. Let's continue. Okay, so as I said, we are going to be talking about sleeping. I love sleep too. I don't get much of it, but I love it. So as I said, we are talking about leadership today, and this sort of question, can everyone be a leader, and all these things that we're going to go into. So I want to start by asking for your help. So I want us to build a super leader together. Okay, so I want you to sort of imagine this, all the qualities that make a leader, and a super, if we were to sort of build this super leader, what would be some traits, some qualities, some characteristics that would kind of describe this super leader together? We're going to do this together. Okay, I'm going to start by trying to draw this superhero. Okay, tell me what you think. Got the head, got a lumpy head, and then here's this saving the world. Okay. Oh man, this is kind of sad superhero. That's okay. I think, can I get some cheer? Can you cheer me on? Some encouragement? Anybody?
You can learn how to draw.
Okay, thank you so much. I will keep practicing.
And maybe next time it will be better.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. All right. This is my best try. Okay. Let's make this a happy hero. Okay.
Looks so nice.
Thank you. You are a really great encourager. Wow. Okay. Happy. Okay. So that's my superhero. And now you're all going to help me describe. Oh, there's some stuff happening in the chat. Oh, look at all this encouragement. Amazing. Oh, I feel so good. Okay. So now you're going to unmic yourself. Okay, how should I do this? I think the easiest, let me see if I can open up the chat. Ooh, I have some good stuff coming in already. Okay, give me a second. I'll catch up.
I can call on names, Alpha, if you want to focus on the reading. I'll watch for people raising their hands.
Okay, could you also read the ones in the chat for me?
Sure.
As I type it?
I
Okay.
absolutely can. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's get some words down.
Kind. Fight.
Fight.
Flight. Oh, flight. Oh, sorry.
Flight. Okay. Cool.
Not fight. Passionate.
Passionate. Okay.
Assertive. Cool.
Cool. All right.
Empathetic.
Good word. Okay.
That's a big word.
Strong.
What's that?
Strong.
Strong.
All right. Some more coming in.
Any more?
Encouraging.
Generous.
Encouraging.
Generous.
Generous.
Humble.
Humble.
Helpfulness. Yeah. Agreeable. Listener. Caring. Positive. Optimistic. Selfless.
All right.
Any more?
Let's Good. Yeah,
Yes,
so many.
lots of responses. Funny,
That's my kind of leader. Funny. All right. Positive.
positive. We had positive, I think, already.
Okay. Let's get one more.
One last thing. Can anybody think of?
A cat.
Cat?
All right.
Furry?
Furry. Well, you know what? You're the boss,
Must have a
guys.
cape.
Must have a cape. All right. I think we've crossed over into
Yeah. I think,
Okay, amazing.
you're
All
right.
right. Thank you so much for helping me build this super leader. Now I have a question for you. Catman, yes, indeed. So we've built this super leader, right? Is there anybody in this room that maybe there is, but is there anybody in this room who is all these things? Let me know if you are a person that has all of these character traits. Kinda, not all of them. Me, I try, maybe. All right. What about in the world? Do you think some of them? Right. Okay. So some uncertainty, some questions, possibly, yes. Do you think there's anyone in the world that has all of these traits? Some people saying yes. You're a cat. Yes, go ahead.
Might be someone.
There might be someone. Yeah,
might be
we don't
someone,
know.
yeah.
We don't know.
You said yes. Can you put in the chat? Do you know who that person might be?
Still thinking about it.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
traits people might have.
You never know. There
You
might
never
be
know.
super cat.
There might be.
We have a cat-friendly group today.
This is a very cat-friendly group. I won't tell you what happened when I had a cat then. I don't want to make any enemies. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I think overall the consensus, like what I'm hearing from folks is just like some ambivalence. Like, yeah, I got some of these things. I know there's some people that might have a whole lot of them, but like seems like most people are agreeing that it's hard to identify someone that has all these traits. And you know what? I think I would agree with you. I know that certainly for me, I don't have all these things. I try, right? Like someone said, like it's something I tried to do. But man, it's tough to do and be all these things. And my concern with the way that we often talk about leaders and leadership is that we have this image in our mind, right? We have this image of this like super cat woman, man person who is like amazing at doing all the things and is out there fighting crime and changing the world. And like, that's awesome. But what happens when we have this idea in our mind of a leader being this like super, super amazing, perfect person? What do you think that does to us when we're trying to be a leader? Do you think that that's always positive to have this idea of, this like perfect leader? Or do you think sometimes that might have some negative consequences? Not quite.
Yeah.
Anybody want to unmic themselves and explain what they think?
Sure, I'm just gonna wing it though. Thinking about someone being a perfect leader might put yourself down. If like there's one attribute maybe that's on this board here that you don't have, you might think, oh, I'm not a good leader. And then you might try a little less because you're not as driven to do it because you don't have everything that you need to have to be a perfect leader. That makes sense.
It made a whole lot of sense. If that's you winging it, you should wing it all the time, right? I think that's the perfect answer, right? Like at least, that's along the lines of what I think, which is that you can disqualify yourself often, right? Like if you have this image of like leaders being these perfect people, and you're like, well, I'm not perfect, so I guess I'm not a leader, right? And so this is something, it can be exhausting. Yeah, absolutely. It can be super exhausting. Like if you're out there trying to like be all the things to all the people, that can be really draining. You might be a cat. That's also a possibility. So it's something that I want you to think about as we move through our conversation today, right? It's like, how much do we hold on to these ideas of leadership that come from different places, right? Those ideas might come from what you see on TV and social media, the political leaders that we hold up, the community leaders that we hold up, maybe from our families and our friends, and how much do we do we hold on to these ideas of a perfect leader? And like, is that really, discouraging us? And if so, like maybe we need to kind of think about leadership in a different kind of way. Thanks so much for your contributions to that. So I am now going to share this short video. How many people have heard of TED Talks or TEDx Talks? Is that something familiar? 2 hands from Jimmy, Diana, not so much. Okay, so TED Talks are, if you go on, on YouTube, you might see some. They're these like short, kind of like speeches that people from around the world give about like an idea that they have or a story that they have, like something that has like an underlying like lesson. So they can be really interesting. Most of them are not geared towards kids, but most of them are quite interesting. And so this is a TEDx talk from actually close to home, from Toronto. This person, Drew Dudley, is talking about leadership, and particularly there's something to do with lollipops. So I want you to pay attention to when this person talks about lollipops, and we're going to have a conversation about this video afterwards. All right.
I want to start by asking everyone in the audience here a question. How many of you are completely comfortable with calling yourselves a leader? See, I've asked that question all the way across the country, and everywhere I ask it, no matter where, there's always a huge portion of the audience that won't put up their hand. And I've come to realize that we have made leadership into something bigger than us. We made it into something beyond us. We made it about changing the world. And we've taken this title of leader and we treat it as if it's something that one day we're going to deserve. But to give it to ourselves right now means a level of arrogance or cockiness that we're not comfortable with. And I worry sometimes that we spend so much time celebrating amazing things that hardly anybody can do, that we've convinced ourselves that those are the only things we're celebrating. And we start to devalue the things that we can do every day. And we start to take moments where we truly are a leader, and we don't let ourselves take credit for it, and we don't let ourselves feel good about it. And I've been lucky enough over the last 10 years to work with some amazing people who have helped me redefine leadership in a way that I think has made me happier. And with my short time today, I just want to share with you the one story that is probably most responsible for that redefinition. I went to a school on a little school called Mount Allison University in Sackville, New Brunswick. And on my last day there, a girl came up to me and she said, "I remember the first time that I met you." And then she told me a story that happened 4 years earlier. She said, "On my day before I started university, I was in the hotel room with my mom and my dad, and I was so scared and so convinced that I couldn't do this, that I wasn't ready for university, that I just burst into tears. And my mom and my dad were amazing. They were like, 'Look, we know you're scared, but let's just go tomorrow. Let's go to the first day, and if at any point you feel as if you can't do this, that's fine. Just tell us, we will take you home. We love you no matter what.'" And she said, so I went the next day, and I was standing in line getting ready for registration, and I looked around and I just knew I couldn't do it. I knew I wasn't ready. I knew I had to quit. And she says, I made that decision, and as soon as I made it, there was this incredible feeling of peace that came over me. And I turned to my mom and my dad to tell them that we needed to go home. And just at that moment, you came out of the Student Union building wearing the stupidest hat I have ever seen in my life. It was awesome. And you had a big sign promoting Shinorama, which is Students Fighting Cystic Fibrosis, a charity I've worked with for years. And you had a bucket full of lollipops. And you were walking along and you were handing the lollipops out to people in line and talking about Shinorama. And all of a sudden, you got to me, and you just stopped, and you stared. It was creepy. This girl right here knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then you looked at the guy next to me, and you smiled, and you reached in your bucket, you pulled out a lollipop, and you held it out to him. And you said, "You need to give a lollipop to the beautiful woman standing next to you." And she said, "I have never seen anyone get more embarrassed faster in my life." He turned beet red, and he wouldn't even look at me. He just kind of held the lollipop out like this. And I felt so bad for this dude that I took the lollipop. And as soon as I did, you got this incredibly severe look on your face, and you looked at my mom and my dad, and you said, "Look at that. Look at that. First day away from home, and already she's taking candy from a stranger." And she said everybody lost it. 20 feet in every direction, everyone started to howl. And I know this is cheesy, and I don't know why I'm telling you this, but in that moment when everyone was laughing, I knew that I shouldn't quit. I knew that I was where I was supposed to be, and I knew that I was home. And I haven't spoken to you once in the 4 years since that day, but I heard that you were leaving. And I had to come up and tell you that you've been an incredibly important person in my life, and I'm gonna miss you. Good luck. And she walks away, and I'm flattened. And she gets about 6 feet away, she turns around and smiles and goes, "You should probably know this too. I'm still dating that guy 4 years later." A year and a half after I moved to Toronto, I got an invitation to their wedding. Here's the kicker. I don't remember that. I have no recollection of that moment. And I've searched my memory banks because that is funny and I should remember doing it. And I don't remember it. And that was such an eye-opening, transformative moment for me to think that maybe the biggest impact I'd ever had on anyone's life, a moment that had a woman walk up to a stranger 4 years later and say, "You've been an incredibly important person in my life," was a moment that I didn't even remember. How many of you guys have a lollipop moment, a moment where someone said something or did something that you feel fundamentally made your life better? All right. How many of you have told that person they did it? See, why not? We celebrate birthdays where all you have to do is not die for 365 days. And yet we let people who have made our lives better walk around without knowing it. And every single one of you has been the catalyst for a lollipop moment. You have made someone's life better by something that you said or that you did. And if you think you haven't, think about all the hands that didn't go back up when I asked that question. You're just one of the people who hasn't been told. But it is so scary to think of ourselves as that powerful. It can be frightening to think that we can matter that much to other people. Because as long as we make leadership something bigger than us, as long as we keep leadership something beyond us, as long as we make it about changing the world, we give ourselves an excuse not to expect it every day from ourselves and from each other. Marianne Williamson said, "Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light and not our darkness that frightens us." And my call to action today is that we need to get over that. We need to get over our fear of how extraordinarily powerful we can be in each other's lives. We need to get over it so we can move beyond it. And our little brothers and our little sisters, and one day our kids, or our kids right now, can watch us start to value the impact we can have on each other's lives more than money and power and titles and influence. We need to redefine leadership as being about lollipop moments. How many of them we create, how many of them we acknowledge, how many of them we pay forward, and how many of them we say thank you for. Because we've made leadership about changing the world, and there is no world. There's only 6 billion understandings of it. And if you change one person's understanding of it, one person's understanding of what they're capable of, one person's understanding of how much people care about them, one person's understanding of how powerful an agent for change they can be in this world, you've changed the whole thing. And if we can understand leadership like that, I think if we can redefine leadership like that, I think we can change everything. And it's a simple idea, but I don't think it's a small one. And I want to thank you all so much for letting me share it with you today. Having a great day at TED. I'll see you later.
Okay, so hopefully you found that video valuable. I'd like to kind of start by hearing your thoughts on the video. Just what are some things that stuck out to you? What's something that you learned from that video? What do you think the key message was? Or was there a question, something that you found confusing? What is that? Is that a cat face? Are we continuing with this cat theme? So Calvin says everyone can be a leader. That's something that you took away from it. Absolutely. Everyone is a leader. All right. Even more bold. Anybody else? Feel free to also raise your hand if you want to share kind of something, reflection from that video. Inspiring. You found it inspiring. Why did you find it inspiring? Can you tell me some more? They just don't acknowledge it, right? Any other thoughts? All right. Keep chewing on that. But the main thing, the main reason why I love this video, and I love sharing it with my students as well, is, building on what Calvin said, is starting to really challenge our ideas of what makes a leader, right? And so, Drew says towards the end that, we talk about leadership as this idea of changing the world, but there's not this one world, right? There are we in our little communities and in our homes and our schools, that's our world, right? And so if you can create an impact on even one person's life, that's changing the world, right? That's part of changing the world. And so he talks about this idea of lollipop moments, right? Using this metaphor from his own example, these moments where we have left an impact. It can be small, but left an impact in this world by impacting at least this one person, and how often we don't recognize them. And so I want us to start recognizing them more. So I'd like you to help me. I'd like you to tell us about a lollipop moment that you helped create. And this can be in your family, with your friends, in your school, in your community, anywhere. It could be with one person, right? Remember that it doesn't have to be a huge, big deal, just something that made the world a tiny bit better. So is there someone, feel free to type in the chat, but I think it'd also be lovely to hear from you out loud. Can someone tell us a story about a time when they had a lollipop moment that they were able to create?
My friends are a big part in my life. And so I told them that, and then they fell on top of me, and it was pretty cool. And
You fell on top of us.
yes,
Mhm.
it was very cozy,
Is
and
this
it made my life a little bit better. And then they started using me as a chair, which I don't mind.
so it sounds like I love all the giggles and joy. It sounds like that, just like that joy that you have together, like you're creating lollipop moments for each other all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had
Awesome.
lollipops in the past.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Let's see in the chat. Oh, lots of letters and
Yeah.
I.
How important is it for everyone to be having fun with their friends? Has anybody had moments like that? Very important.
Mm-hmm. Anyone want to tell a story about a time when they were able to make someone maybe feel better in a time when they weren't feeling so great?
Yeah, especially during COVID, it's been really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's give folks another minute to see if you can remember a story. Mm-hmm.
Does anybody remember a moment where they helped a friend?
Go ahead.
Once my friend was like, she got hurt, like someone was bullying her, and like I went up there and I signed up for the bully.
That's amazing. How do you think that made your friend feel?
Happy,
Happy. And how did you feel after doing that?
happy.
Happy. Look at all that happiness you created with that, little bit of courage, right? That it took. It's not easy to stand up to bullies. But I think that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Go ahead.
One time, I think it was like 3 years ago, I was in my class, and there's a guy named Alex. I don't even know him, but one of like the class bully, like he wasn't really a bully, but he wanted like Alex to like chug a full water bottle, and he was like calling him a chicken, like it was big bully stuff. And I came over to him. I'm like, hey, get out of here. And it was actually one of the spray water bottles. I sprayed him with it, and he left. And he never bullied that guy again. And now we're friends. We're great friends, actually.
That's amazing. And why do you think that helped? It sounds like that experience helped bond you guys, right?
Yeah, because he was like, oh, thanks. Because like it wasn't even my friend. I didn't even know him. He was just like a guy across the rooms. But I was like, hey, that's not cool. And so I went over there. I was like, hey, get out of there.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love this. I love all the ways in which you are all challenging bullying. I mean, I'm on the other side of childhood, right? I'm an adult. And I have lots of conversations with like teenagers and adults and even like people who are much older who remember these experiences of bullying. And it can impact them for the rest of their life, right? But you know what else they remember? They remember those moments where somebody believed in them, stood up for them, made them feel seen, made them feel heard. That also really sticks with them. So thank you so much for sharing that.
And I love that too, that I guess you made a friend too, right? How
Right.
did that make you feel?
Oh yeah, that made me feel great. Turns out our birthdays were on the same day, so that was interesting.
Well, there you go. It was meant to be.
Yeah, same age, same birthday, so that was interesting.
That is. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I got another one, but it looks like wants to say one though.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Hi.
Oh
So
no.
shush. Anyway, so when I was in kindergarten, some of my other friends, they were always getting sad about something, and sometimes I didn't really understand that because I was like, why are you sad? Then they would run away and I would chase after them, and then I would find them sitting somewhere. So I'd sit beside them and tell them one of my extremely stupid jokes, and they would cheer up and we would go back to playing, and then it would happen over and over again.
Which friends?
I think it was mostly
Okay, yeah, because I don't
Katie.
think I'd do that. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
remember kindergarten.
yeah, and I still have a bunch of really stupid jokes that cheer everybody up.
They're-
Well, I would love to hear those jokes. I'm a collector of jokes. I love jokes, and I love how
Thank-
I love how simple that is, right? Like it's just a simple, silly joke, right? In a time when somebody was not feeling themselves or not feeling like happy or seen or belong, and it's similar to this video that I shared, right? Like this
Ow.
person who was just making this silly joke, but it made someone feel like they mattered, and and someone made a point to connect with them. Don't underestimate the power of these small actions, right? These are the small things that we do on a daily basis, these little tiny lollipop moments that maybe we think are silly or not a big deal, but they add up, and they become characters, they become character traits, they become practices and like principles, and they become who you are. And so I think it's amazing. I want you to continue to think about these small ways in which you are showing your values and making these impacts in the world.
Yeah, and I made a comment in the chat too,
Right.
about just going over to her friend's place and how that cheered her up. So
Amazing. Thank you
those
so much for
little
sharing
things.
that. Absolutely. Lots of other people agreeing. Hi, go ahead. Please let us know your story.
Well, at school, over Okandala in the morning, it used to play in all our sons command, and I wrote a letter to the principal to change it to all of us command, and it actually worked.
That's amazing. And how did you what made you decide to make that request, and how were you nervous about making that request initially?
Well, I think I would have been a bit more nervous if it was in person. I just sent a letter though, so
Mhm.
not really.
And what inspired you to do that? Why did you think it was important to do that?
Well, just girls' rights. And some people that just think about only boys and men, but girls are there too.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that takes a lot of bravery as well, right? To see something and to say, it's not always something negative happening, like someone being bullied. Like sometimes there are these things that we take for granted, like it's just the way everyone has always done it. And I'm going to share a slide in a moment about like challenging the way that things are as part of this idea of leadership. And I think your example is a perfect example of that. Just looking around and saying, you know what? We've been doing things this way for a long time, and it's fine, but I think we can do it better. Or I think that there are people who are excluded from this, or I think that this is not fair. This is not just. And thinking about, again, sometimes these small ways, like, maybe we can't create gender equality like with a magic wand right away, right? But you, in that small action, I actually think was a very big action, right? Like is challenging this really big social issue that has been plaguing, human history from the beginning of time, right? That's amazing. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah, go ahead.
This one wasn't actually me, but it was my mom. I was having a play date with my friends. I just saw them yesterday, and we were on the beach, and there's like these rocks. It's Lake Ontario, and there's like these rocks, and these people were jumping off, and it was fun. And so this one guy who I think just moved to where I live decided to jump off too, but he didn't know how to swim. So he only figured that out when he jumped into the water and he was drowning. And like this is a happy ending, don't worry. Anyways, and his friends were like, help him, he's drowning. And my mom was like, she turned to my friend's mom. She's like, took her purse off, took her phone, and she into the water. And like with all of her swimming skills, I don't know what you call them. Anyways, like she did her paddles and such, and saved the guy's life. So that was fun.
That's a pretty big deal. Yeah, I feel like that's a different category, right?
Yeah,
That's
that's
outside
right.
of lollipop moments. That's amazing. Your mom sounds amazing. And what I want to remind you of is the question that the person asked in the video earlier, right? Which is like, what are these lollipop moments that you've sort of encountered in your life, and how often do we acknowledge that to other people, right? Like sometimes when we see these things in the people, like these amazing traits and examples in the people, is your mom there right now? Um,
No, she's in Toronto right now.
okay. But I think it's important that we tell people how amazing they are, right? Like we need to do a better job of that. Not saying you didn't do a good job of that, but like to say, like, you know what, that's an amazing thing that you did. And then to be specific, like that shows me bravery. It shows me that you're selfless, going back to some of the traits that we were brainstorming earlier. And I really admire you for that. So thank you, right? Like those moments are important because you never know how encouraging that might be for the person that you're sharing that to. So kudos to your mom. That's amazing.
And shared also that she helped her mom when she was sick. That's amazing.
That's so awesome, right? Like often like those are the most powerful opportunities that we have when someone is really at their lowest, right? Like really just like not feeling great. Like there's so many lollipop moments and it can be so simple. So thank you all. I feel so privileged to be in the presence of such amazing young leaders. And so I have no doubt that you'll continue to be creating change in your communities. So I want to share a few more ideas around this idea of leadership. So this is a model. It's a leadership challenge. It's taken from a particular set of authors who've sort of developed this framework, this model, this set of ideas that they believe, is like when you take them together are some key attributes, some key principles for leadership. And it's a model that I share with my students in university. And I wanted to share that with you as well, because I think it's great. It's got some concrete ideas and some of which we've already begun to talk about today. So if you have any questions as I'm sharing this, just raise your hands in the chat. Okay. So as you can see, there are sort of 5 different categories, and I'll go to each one. Okay. So there's model the way, inspire a shared vision, enable others to act, challenge the process, and encourage the heart. Okay. So the first one is model the way. And that is, talking about how much of leadership is really about demonstrating the behaviors that you expect of others. So these things, all these kind of traits that we were brainstorming earlier, we really need to not only be expecting them of others, but actually taking it upon ourselves to demonstrate that, to actually model that, to show through our actions what it means to live out these values. And a lot of the things that you were all sharing in those stories are great examples of that, of modeling the way. And I think this aligns with how we often think of leaders, right? They're people who embody, who demonstrate through their day-to-day actions these things that we admire as society. The second one I wanted to share is inspire a shared vision. And this is talking about this idea of, imagining the change that we want to see in the world, and also getting others excited about those ideas and vision. Because there's, of course, there's things that we can do on our own, but there's also so much strength in numbers, right? And so being a leader is not always about going out there full force and just doing things on your own. It's about a collective, response. It's about getting other people to support that. And sometimes you're the person who has this, vision, this idea of how things might be different, but it's about developing the courage and the skills to get other people to see that vision and to buy into it as well. The next one is enable others to act. So this is, again, reminding us that leadership is not only about you. It's also about your ability to turn others into leaders. And that's not something we often think about, right? How much being a leader, again, we often think about leader at sort of the top of the pyramid, right? But I think it's also really powerful to remember that leaders are people who not only lead, but create opportunities for other people to see how powerful they are, how capable they are, and create opportunities for them to also be leaders. So I wanted to pause here with a discussion question and ask, is there someone in your life that has inspired you to be a leader? And if so, how?
Well, I know that this has probably already been said, a lot in other groups, but my family always inspired me to do everything that everything that I have done. My family I would not be able to do anything if not for the people who teach me, which really is mostly my parents.
That's amazing. Absolutely. Our families are such an incredible like source of encouragement and support and confidence, right? So whatever your family looks like, right? Like they're often these people who just remind us of what we're capable of, right? And inspire us and encourage us and see the capabilities and the potential and say like, keep going, like you can do it. So I'm so glad to hear that your family has been that source for you. Thank you. Anyone else? Is there someone in your life that's inspired you to be a leader? Can also be like a public figure or someone directly in your life.
Probably my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. My mom and dad, very good leaders. So they've definitely encouraged me to be leaders. Wait. Yeah, no. Same thing as my parents. Very good.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and we don't always realize how many ways our parents help us until it happens, right? Like later on, many years later, I remember thinking back and realizing the opportunities my parents gave me helped me. You don't realize it at the time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You are leaders. You are doing leadership, teaching us leadership.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, I am. And I really hope that I'm inspiring you. And if I am, then that makes me feel really good. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you reminding me of my ability to create this lollipop moment. Thank you. Okay, I'll move forward to a couple more. Encouraging the heart. And this is about how important it is to recognize the contributions of others by showing appreciation for the people around you. Like just demonstrated for us, for example, and like in the video I shared earlier, how important it is to tell people when they've made an impact on you. If you are like if you are like let's say you're doing like a group project at school and like everyone's sort of doing their best, and whether or not, or you're part of like a sports team and like maybe you didn't win the match or the game, right? Like you can still make a decision to create opportunities to recognize everyone's contributions, to say like, good job. Like, like I saw how much you were hustling out there. I saw, all the efforts you put in, and it really matters. Like those small moments of really encouraging the people's heart is really, really powerful and such an important aspect of what it means to be a leader. And the last one I wanted to share, sorry, I can't remember what you said your name was. The person under.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's me.
Okay, awesome. And so the example that you were sharing about, changing the anthem was reminded me of this slide, right? Which is about, how leadership is about, not being satisfied by the way that things are, and looking around for things that could be better, and having the courage to ask questions and suggest changes. So you had a perfect example of what that looks like. And so I wanted to see if there's a few more examples that we might come up with together. What is something in your school or community that you think could be improved? Maybe you haven't done anything about it just yet, but something that you really want to see some change with. Yeah, go ahead.
In my school, there are a limited amount of opportunities from from kindergarten to grade 3. All the opportunities open up in grade 4. And that's only about maybe 2 or 3 of about 5 clubs that you can join. But I think that grades 1 to 3 should also have some more opportunities. For instance, volleyball. The grades 1 to 3 should be able to play volleyball, flag football, cross country, participate in science and math fairs, and do all that sort of stuff that the grades 4 and onwards can do.
Amazing. I love that. I think that, often, like sometimes it's a matter of resources, but sometimes also people just forget what kids are capable of, right? And think that, they're when they're young, it's just about playing and like learning the basics, and they forget that there's so much more that they can contribute. And so I think it's really amazing that you've identified that as something that, could really be changed. sounds like you're a bit of a firecracker. So maybe you'll be part of encouraging some of that change, or even sharing ideas with some of the younger people in your school and creating and encouraging them to ask for those opportunities, right? It doesn't always have to be you. But I think that's a really great example. Any others? Something in your school or community that you think could be improved? See if I can get one more person to share an idea. Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe the school should change their time system. Maybe the light just turned off. Anyway, maybe because people who don't live as close to the school, like the high school I'm going to next year, is about 20 minutes, half an hour away, and so I'll have to get up at like 7:30. That's pretty early compared to what I do now. So yeah, I think they should like maybe push the get to school time maybe a half an hour.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes, again, going back to this idea of challenging things, sometimes people's answer to why things are the way they are is, well, because they are the way they are, right? Like sometimes we get used to like things being structured in a particular way, and it limits people's imaginations about what's possible, or they get afraid of like, well, if we change the time, what else will change? And like, what if that means that kids will suddenly not take school seriously? Or, there can be a lot of fear in change, right? And so it can be challenging but I want you as young people in particular, don't be limited by the lack of imagination that many of us adults have, right? You are the most imaginative people on this planet. And I want you to hold on to that, and don't let that, be quieted. I think really like lean into and like continue to explore those ideas that are part of like just what makes you young, and like in terms of your ability to see the possibilities. So you know what? I don't like mornings either. And I would love it if everyone would just start the day at 10 a.m. Like if we could all collectively agree that nothing starts before 10, I would also be on board with that. So sign me up. If there's a petition, you've got my signature. Okay. All right. So yeah, there's lots of agreement in the chat. Okay. So I wanted to end with, we've begun to bust some of these myths already, but I wanted to kind of bring them together. Busting some leadership myths that might be ideas that you have already in your mind, or you might encounter as you continue to kind of move through your life and through the world. The first myth I wanted to bust is this idea like, oh, if I'm quiet or shy, I can't be a leader, right? This is a really common myth, because people who often are put on the pedestal as leaders, as examples of leaders, are the people who put their hand up right away in class, were the first to be who volunteer and the first to be picked to do things, and the ones who talk a lot and they're really loud and command a lot of attention. Like that often is this idea like, oh, well, yeah, that's the leader of the class, right? Or that's the leader of our community. That's the leader of our team. And so so some of you might not be like that, right? Maybe you are just naturally a quiet person, a little bit more shy, a little bit more reserved. And I want you to know that that doesn't mean that you can be a leader. There are all kinds of leaders, all stripes, all kinds of personalities. And actually there are very unique leadership roles that are, very particularly well suited to people who are more shy or more quiet, right? There's a certain kind of work that you can do that others can't do. So I want you to understand that is not a limitation by itself. The next myth I want to bust is that maybe leadership is not for people who look like me. Some of you might come from communities or from backgrounds or racial backgrounds or genders that, typically are not represented, are not shown to be examples of what leaders look like, right? I believe, like for me, like people who look like me have not often been shown as examples of what leaders look like. And that can be really hard to like wrap your head around and to challenge. And I want you to know, again, that leadership is not one color, not one gender, not one height. Leadership is, whatever it is that you look like, or the background that you have gives you a unique perspective on the world, and you can be a leader from exactly that position. The next is that leaders always have to be up front. And again, going back to this idea of enabling others to act, I want you to remember that leaders don't always have to be at the front. You can be at the back. There's something called like servant leadership or service leadership, where you're at the back actually, and you're encouraging other people to move forward. Much like how you were describing the ways in which your family has been like the source of support behind you, kind of encouraging you to take on these like leadership roles, you can also become that kind of a leader. The next is that leadership is only for people in certain professions. Like you might think, well, I want to be a doctor when I grow up. So like, there's nothing that's about leadership, related to doctors, or like, I want to be a botanist, or, I want to explore, like rocks. And like, you might think that has nothing to do with leadership. And again, I don't agree with that, right? Leadership is not this thing for like people who go into politics. Again, if we think about leadership in this new way, which is about like creating change and making the world a little bit better in wherever you find yourself, then you can easily see how leadership can happen wherever you are in whatever kind of profession. Another myth is that I have to be identified as a leader by someone else. And this is something that I struggled with when I was younger, because initially when I was in elementary school, I often was not the person who was being picked by the teacher to be the leader. Or even in high school, sometimes there were these like leadership workshops and conferences, and it was the same people who were picked all the time. And so that can start to get to your head where you think like, oh, I guess like if my teacher doesn't sort of identify me as a leader, then I'm not a leader. And again, I want you to remember that that's not the case, right? This is a personal decision. These are personal decisions that you make. There's opportunities every day where you can kind of stand up and decide to create change, or to make an impact, or to try something new that, that makes you a leader. The next one is that leaders shouldn't fail. And this, if you have an opportunity to do some research into different like famous leaders in the world, most of them would share stories of how much they failed. Failure is part of what it means to try, right? And try is what you need to do in order to really create change in this world. So please don't be discouraged by those times that you try to do something and it doesn't really work out for you. It's really just about getting up again. And the last one I wanted to share is this notion, and this kind of goes to what Maya was sharing earlier, that, I'll wait till I grow up to become a leader. And maybe some of you might think that. I hope not. I hope you can see through our conversation today how much you are all already showing and demonstrating leadership qualities, and how much leadership is really something that begins at any age and is a lifelong journey. So I'll end with this last thought, which is that leadership begins when you find something that you care about. It's not necessarily what I care about or what someone else tells you to care about. It's about your own path and your own journey. And it's a lifelong journey, and it begins now, not when you're 50, not when you're 20, but right now. And I'm really encouraged by what you've all shared, which shows me that you're already doing that in your communities and in your schools. And I hope you continue to do that. So I'll stop here, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are any, but I've really appreciated this conversation. It's been so rich, and I'm really digging those glasses. That's awesome.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Abebe. Before everyone goes away, I really want to thank you, Dr. Abebe, for taking time. It's amazing the conversation that you fostered. I think the points that you made are really important, and especially that last slide for kids to think about what they feel strongly about. I think that's really important. Thanks, everyone, and thanks again, Dr. Abebe. Take care, everyone.